Okay, this is another video for Maddox because we're not sure that the last one was loud enough. And I want to tell you that you are experiencing a foreign culture very early. And I didn't get to do that until really late. I took Laura and Eric to Mexico when they were very young. How long? Maybe 6 and 8 or so. And uh, maybe that's why Laura learned Spanish so well. But it's also Eric's experience wasn't so good, so maybe that's why he didn't want to learn Spanish. And we lived we didn't live with a family. I like to live with families when I'm with in another country and to experience what they are experiencing in their house. Okay, let's try that. Okay, now I am in Portland talking to Ami, and I'm going to project so that he can hear and everybody else. So I'm going to tell you about when I had nightmares. I was very young, maybe 8 or 7, and I had my own bedroom, and on the curtain there were shadows, and they moved a lot, and I was sure that they were out to get me. You know, if you're young, you think something in the window is going to get you. And so that was very, very scary. And I have no idea what my parents did they didn't realize that that was going on. And I don't think they realized until much later um, what was going on. Now, I'm going to tell you another scary memory. Um, I was traveling with my mother and father, so I was under 7, and we were going on the train. Well, uh, my father got there early or late, and he got a different train. And we were expecting to be with him on the train. So what should we do? He had the tickets, he had the money. What? And the train left, and he was on it, and we were not. So this was in the big Chicago station, and so we 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 got on the next train and got off at the first stop, and there he was. Hallelujah. Okay, now we have to stop. Hi, I'm in Portland, and I'm going to talk loudly so that you and Ami can hear me. And it's June 4th, 2023. So, Ami, I'm going to tell you about my work experience with my father, which was my first job. Can you hear me and understand? Okay. Um, so he he had an office uh, on uh, the main street in downtown Chicago, State Street, and he was. I worked in the office and sometimes in the stores, and he sold girdles and bras in the stores. That was the time when girdles were important, and the girdles had a piece at the bottom which held up the long stockings, which was after the war because you couldn't sell stockings during the war for some reason. Okay, so it was interesting because the work in the office was um, clerical and typing and stuff, and also in the uh, area where the supplies were for the girdles and bras that would go to the stores. Well, I became friendly with the people as I do, uh, and in the warehouse part, I said, "Do you belong to a union?" And they said, "No." And I said, "Oh, you should." And they couldn't believe that the boss's daughter was promoting a union because it was not something that bosses liked. So that was fun there. And I think what I did in the office also was a newsletter for, he had departments all over Texas and not all, various parts of the country that he would visit the departments. And one was in Chicago. He had a store in Chicago. Now, I might be mixing up the time periods because he had departments for a while and then he had stores for a while. And then another time he didn't have any of that and he just traveled with samples. But when I was working, it was the office and the store. The store sometimes in the department. Department means like you go to a Macy's or something and there's a shoe department. Well, Macy's doesn't own all those departments. They may be owned by somebody else. So I'm going to talk, well, in the department, I remember thinking, I want to improve this. I was already thinking, like my later job as an efficiency expert, I wanted to look around and see how I could improve the department. And the same in the store. But in the store, my fond memory is when the mother of a friend of mine came in and she said she wanted one of the bras that inflates. Have you ever heard of that? No. We don't have them now, and you may not know much about bras. But this was a bra that you could put a straw in and blow and then close it, and that made you bigger. I don't know why they went out of business doing that, but I mean, I would try it. So this mother, Mitzi, came in and she tried it on, and then she wanted me, or I think she took my finger and poked it. She wanted me to feel what it was like. It was like a balloon. And I'll never forget that because it was so awkward to be asked to poke somebody's bra and have it feel like a balloon. Okay, so those are big stories from that. But also what was fun was to drive into town from Highland Park to Chicago before the freeways. Before, can you imagine? Okay, so we're driving along a long drive and we passed the Baha'i Temple. Baha'i Temple was a huge building, and the Baha'is believe in incorporating 8 different beliefs. There was Judaism and Catholicism and Islam and this and that and all the others. So their building was, as I think it was 8-sided. It was beautiful, and we would pass it. The other way I went with him to work was on the train, on the Northwestern train. And so all the men are reading the newspaper, you know, as they commute. You don't see any faces, no faces. So I started reading the paper too. The Chicago Tribune, the Sun-Times. Okay, that's it. You get to the city and everybody goes off into the station. They don't talk much. But later on, they started talking, and I had some other experiences I won't tell you, but anyway, it was fun. Okay, that's all I'm going to talk about now. So the question here is, how do I feel about getting older? And the answer today, which is June 4th, 2023, just after my birthday, how old was I? 86. That sounds so old. And it's all in your head. Am I old or am I not old? Like, I think older people are older than I am. And you think older people are a little bit older than you. And I don't have that much longer to live. So, of course, I could live 20 years. Oh, no. 15. No, that's pretty old. 10. 10 is better. Okay. 8, 96. But how well we live is so important. Uh, and how do we govern that? Like, I think there's a lot to be done early on to be ready for older age. Like, I have been in physical therapy for 20 years, and she gave me exercises, and I keep on doing them. That's the trick. Do your exercises. Okay, but how do I feel about getting older? I think it's a challenge, and I think you can do it challenge physically and mentally and in a community. Um, Challenge is the big word. Like, I have a friend now who is dying of cancer, but in the last 5 years after she got it, she challenged herself every day to walk farther, to read more books, to and she challenged herself up to the very end, and I like that idea. Some people just lay back and, oh, well, I'm just getting older. But that's not me. And so I hike by myself every day along the coast and in the woods. I look for friends who will, and I have friends, two good friends, Michael and Josie, who walk fast. They walk a little slower than I do. I mean, they walk a little slower when they're with me because they are in great shape and they're 10 years younger. So it makes a big difference. But they have kept it up. So I can do that too.